guys, welcome back to Only the Brave with myself, Dane Smith. I had promised you guys we would be changing the venue, and today we are in the warehouse of Shippii. They started their journey during lockdown and in a very deadly pandemic. The pandemic has closed thousands of businesses and thus leaving millions of South Africans unemployed. But these two brave men took it upon themselves to start the startup, if I can say.
Yeah.
I don't know, because you guys are a year old now, and I am joined by Leslie and Sibusi. So welcome to Only the Brave.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here, guys. They are a little bit nervous. I am trying to lighten the mood. I guess being the face of your brand puts a lot of pressure on everything. I must say, speaking so from experience. So, guys, not wasting time. Tell us about Shippii and how it all started.
Shippii started about a year ago, as we are celebrating our first birthday. It started off, initially it was us coming together, Les and I, after the issues of lockdown and having job insecurity. To have to figure out, guys, how do we proceed? As much as, yes, we have our own jobs, but we're also not sure if we will have them forever. So it was one of those fears of having, and then we sat down and started identifying opportunities within different markets, and especially when it comes to supply chain, it's something that we've had a passion for over the years. We've both been into supply chain in different parts, from his other ventures, my other ventures as well within supply chain. So it was actually somewhat of a perfect fit when we identified that there is a market for online shopping, especially cross-border. Because for me, I also come from Swaziland, and I've got a lot of family and friends that every single time I go down to Swaziland that ask me to take their parcels with, or if they're ordering online, that ask things to be dropped off by me. So we realize that there actually is a gap in the market for such a service, and also it's not necessarily unique to Eswatini. This is somewhat of a SADC issue, if not an African issue, where a lot of people actually purchase from South Africa and have stuff being shipped to them. So that's how we actually started.
Oh, okay. I love that, because it's also us starting to connect Africa.
Correct.
And also having it accessible. And I love the online aspect of it, because we obviously in the fourth industrial revolution, and we need to expand as South Africa. There's these type of businesses. Actually, it's like a domino effect. So you guys are able to empower, like you say, the online industry as well. So you said online, and what I do know about your business is that you guys mainly take care of the tech side of things.
Okay.
So how does that work?
So it's in two parts, if I could call it that. We've created a system that actually allows us to remotely manage our orders, or receive orders, as well as dispatch parcels throughout the different locations we service. Because currently we're servicing Gauteng, Eswatini, and Botswana. So through the system, it's how it actually now allows us to be able to run the business.
Okay.
Our main focus for us also is, it's more, call it e-logistics, lack of a better term, where we focus mainly on finding parcels to be delivered, and then to a certain degree outsourcing certain deliveries to service providers that we have throughout the country, as well as in other countries that we operate in.
Interesting. So you guys have just turned a year old. What are some of the operational challenges you have faced? And obviously with challenges, there's a lot of learning in that space. If you want to elaborate on that.
Look, from an operational challenge perspective, I'd say for one was just beginning the business. I mean, we had this great idea, we identified a problem, but we have little capital and no resources. So one of the key things that we then looked at is really developing relationships with key people that helped us put together the business. All right. But as far as key operational challenges were concerned, things like the riots that took place recently in Gauteng, that really had a big impact in terms of orders coming in, revenue, because most people slowed down in terms of purchasing.
Of course, yes.
And there was really no movement in terms of trucking, whether it's vans and so on and so forth. also added to that, I mean, in Eswatini, in the recent unfortunate strikes that were taking place, and the violence that was also taking place in the country. So that really had an impact on our supply chain and our ability to move parcels to and from. But because we're so passionate about our clients and really obsessed with really understanding their needs, we've got to really speak to them to make them understand that, you know, there would be delays from a service perspective, but just to keep them in mind and just make sure that their parcels are safe with us, whereby we introduce things like, you know, free storage throughout the ride. And then we also let them know that, you know, deliveries would eventually get there, but I mean, turnarounds would be slightly delayed.
Of course, yes.
So those were some of those key operational challenges.
And I think just listening to that, you guys have been able to strengthen your relationship with your clients. I mean, offering them those free benefits, because that situation, nobody knew when it would end. So, well done on that. And you also mentioned something that I loved is the strategic and key relationships you've built in order to start this business. And I think that's so important, especially in the time we are in now, and just going forward, is that we need to build those relationships. How did you guys? I don't know, just for the listener and the viewer out there, just like starting that relationship, because a lot of people are quite afraid to start meaningful relationships. And what do you say to someone like, I don't know, how does that relationship building look like? If you can.
I think we'll tag team on this one.
It's an interesting question that you ask. It's a conversation I believe we had possibly a month or two ago. We were sitting down and reflecting on the business and actually realized that we've been blessed. Been blessed by certain relationships that we have. This is how we've been able to build these partnerships as well. Where there are certain, how can I call it, cogs within the whole system where we already had somewhat existing relationships with these people. So it became a part where we had to now sit down and actually connect all these pieces together and form Shippii.
Okay.
But more than anything, it was just pretty much putting in our case to say, this is who we are, this is what we want to achieve, this is what you have, and we believe this is how we can work with each other to actually achieve these goals.
And clearly there's a lot of trust there, because people tend to not trust new businesses, and especially if it comes to their valuables.
Correct.
So clearly, so you know what? So everyone who's watching and wants to use their services, they are clearly trustworthy. Because I mean, it's those relationships that were able to sustain your business, right?
Correct. And I mean, just to add to that, from a relationship perspective, I think what really added to our ability to put the business together and to form the partnerships is that in our respective previous ventures, we had already started building those types of relationships. I mean, in my space, having a very strong supply chain background, I'm the type of person to, you know, speak to suppliers, speak to potential clients, speak to transporters. Even though it might not be necessary because there might not be a need, but just because of creating a channel with that person or those types of people, you can always circle back and say, hey, remember our conversation, then I'd like to, you know, proceed with it.
And you know, I love that. I love a lot of stuff. No, I love that just because in my own personal space, there were a lot of relationships I was able to cultivate back in the day, and now that I am into different ventures, I can always go back to those strategic partnerships that I've put in place and say, hey, you remember this, and exactly what you're saying. You know, and I think it's one of the key ingredients to success is really how you interact with people and the memory that you leave with them, so that when you do come back and you say, hey, listen here, let's move forward.
You're right.
And then that channel is obviously open to you guys. So through Shippii, how do you guys plan on empowering the youth? Because I mean, you guys are part of the youth, and obviously we want to empower each other. So how does Shippii plan on doing that?
We're very big on youth on our end. I think it's really our strategic advantage, being a youth black-owned business for that matter. It's really on two parts. I mean, internally is we foresee us expanding our operations to the point where in which we can open up opportunities from a job perspective, be it internship as well as an absorption type of program in verticals in particular such as technology, because we are an online-based type of delivery service, and we intend to include other products that can be purchased online, such as the Shippii plug that we currently have.
Shippii plug?
Yeah, Shippii plug.
Shippii plug?
Shippii plug is basically our easy onboarding order management tool. So it basically provides a centralized plug-in tool for online merchants to be able to centralize the orders that they get from their customers and be able to unlock delivery services that we would then provide at very competitive delivery rates. So that also then opens up then that space for youth to come into to be able to get exposure to that tech side of e-logistics, as well as supply chain in general, because of how broad it is and because of the market that we're currently in as Shippii, it's then going to create pockets of opportunity for youth to then plug in. And then from an external perspective is that we really believe in collaboration and partnerships. And one of the things that myself and Sib look into is looking at up-and-coming youth-owned transportation companies, all right, that we can then partner with in the event that there are opportunities for us to share the services insofar as parcel deliveries are concerned.
Yes, and obviously within their region. So, because you guys are now in Gauteng, Botswana, and Eswatini, obviously the long-term goal is to be throughout South Africa and Africa.
Correct.
And then obviously people, I think, so I just want to understand, just from a potential, investor in terms of like using my trucks or whatever, a viewer. So if they lived in the Eastern Cape and they had a truck, would they be able to come to you right now and say, hey guys, I have, transport available, this is how we can do it? Is that possible right now for them?
Well, we're very, call it a bit strategic and deliberate as to how we're rolling out the expansion of the business. Currently, we're looking at the major nodes within South Africa, being your KZN, Cape Town, and potentially maybe your Kimberley sites as well.
Okay.
That's where we're looking at expanding into in the near future. But yes, ultimately what we want to have is to be able to move parcels throughout the whole of South Africa, and also identifying other, call it neighboring countries to South Africa, and expand from there. Our goal is to be a somewhat, I guess we can call it a pan-African company. That is our major goal. So to pretty much answer your question, at this moment, not necessarily for Eastern Cape, but I think within the near future we will be actually putting out information to the general public to say, if you're within such a segment, we are willing and ready to partner with you.
Yes.
Yeah. My apologies about that.
It's fine. I think because I'm not in the normal space that I'm in, there was no disclaimer, just cell phones on silent or off. But it's fine. That happens. We're having a conversation. These are the things that happen, guys. So don't judge. Don't be hard on it.
Not at all. Please. It's actually our clearing agent for Eswatini.
Oh, okay. So business is happening while we are shooting, guys. I love to see it. So just last one. What advice do you guys have for aspiring entrepreneurs?
I think number one for me is, develop the ability to have a problem-solving mindset. I think it's very important as an entrepreneur to be able to identify problems, be it in your own space or be it out there, and be able to think about ways in which you could potentially solve it. The other aspect for me that comes to mind is communication. You need to be able to speak up. You need to be able to start a conversation. You need to be able to develop relationships, because if you're unable to, as they say, sell yourself, who else will?
Who else gonna? Because who else better knows your brand and what you stand for?
Correct.
I think for me, this there's two things I'd say. One being leverage. This goes back to the relationships, of building relationships. We started Shippii with very limited resources, but throughout us being able to utilize whatever leverage we had, we were able to leverage services from other people in growing the business.
Yes.
So it's one of the things that I'd always say, what do you have? What do you possess that you can actually leverage off the next person for in order for to attain that service, even if you don't have the monetary value currently, but how do you work with that? And then another thing, I guess, would also be processes. We have been very deliberate as well in how we structure Shippii on a day-to-day and what process we put into Shippii. The key thing for us is we're building a business in the mindset of, if we were to sell it one day, can we actually sell it? And if someone else is buying it, can they actually continue with it? So processes are very key within us to say, and I actually advise everyone to do that when they start a business. Put in proper processes where, I think this is a term that you guys used to love using, where you're not the magic of the business. Regardless of whether I'm alive or not, I am there or not, the business should still be able to continue because of processes that were set in place. So it's also, that now feeds in also to a legacy. If we create this business, put in the proper processes, I believe our kids will be able to inherit this. And it won't die if we're no longer able to actually wake up and come run Shippii.
Exactly.
So it's one of the things that I'm for, it's processes.
And I think just to add to that is, I mean, one of the reasons why I decided to jump on board with Shippii is because of legacy. I envision myself, my kids not having to go and market themselves in other businesses, but rather coming to this business to them, to add value to the business. And for that to happen, we need to make sure that we build a robust and sustainable business that can work without our present, because given where we're going as a country, the youth are without any opportunities that are waiting for them. So it's very important that they develop the ability to start their own businesses. Wherever you are sitting thinking about that idea that, maybe should I start it, maybe should I not, go for it. You need to start, you need to make those mistakes so that you can learn, all right, and improve as a person. And I think it's important just for the youth to develop that ability to be brave enough to be entrepreneurs, because the more of us that are in this space, the more opportunities that then start to flourish in terms of job opportunities and in terms of just growing the economy.
Yes, which is quite important, because we can have all these businesses set up, but if the economy is not leveraging from it,
it's correct.
Yeah, where we're going. Yeah,
I love that saying where it says, "We are the ones that we've been waiting for."
Yes, it's a powerful saying.
And I think it just goes out to the youth that we need to start and not wait for someone else, either your parents, either your family, or even the government. Use what you have, start, and then you will take it from there.
Well, thank you guys. Well, those are some key takeaways, for that entrepreneur out there, for myself as well, just in everything I'm doing. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. And there you guys have it. Be brave enough to start that business and be the person that you were waiting for. So thank you to Shippii for being on the show today, and you guys will be getting a lot more of this. So thank you, and I'll see you guys next time.